We in the Bermuda Progressive Labor Party are standing strong for our leader, the Honorable Mark Bean, and the Honorable Shadow Finance Minister, David Burt. And we are here today to show our collective support for them. We were extremely disturbed that during the motion to adjourn in the House of Parliament on Friday, December the 13th, Premier Cannonier and Ministers Crockwell and Pettingale leveled serious allegations of our leader regarding a telephone conversation that was held between the opposition leader and the Premier. Needless to say, we found it unacceptable that such allegations would be leveled at a time when the opposition leader was not in the chamber as he was attending to family matters. It is our opinion that parliamentary protocol requires that accusations such as those made by the Premier should have waited until our leader was present in Parliament to look his accusers in the face and provide his own responses. We therefore believe that our leader had no choice but to respond to those allegations in a parliamentary explanation, as his reputation was sullied when those three honorable members alleged that the opposition leader threatened to undermine the referendum on gaming. Moreover, our faith in the integrity of our Parliament was severely tested when Ministers Crockwell and Pettingale taunted that they overheard the telephone conversation between the Premier and the opposition leader, as the Premier admitted to sharing this conversation with his ministers via speaker telephone, without the decency of informing the opposition leader of this circumstance. These actions were conducted in bad faith and reflect the character of the individuals involved. We consider the actions of the Premier and his colleagues to be a willful intent to solidify their potential political position through deceit. We further consider the assertion offered by the Shadow Finance Minister, David Burt, that the Premier offered IT consulting work on the absentee balloting system to his private IT company, with the money saved from abandoning the referendum equally disturbing. The Premier admitted on February the 14th to having discussed absentee balloting in the meeting that he had had with MP Burt, and on December the 10th, 2013. Why would the Premier need to discuss this matter with MP Burt when he has the entire government IT department at his disposal? The Premier's deflections do not add up. I've always found MP Burt to be a man of integrity, and I'm confident that my political colleagues will agree. As I stated in Parliament on Friday, February the 14th, Premier Cannonier also asked me to meet on the 11th of December, and during that meeting, he suggested to me that I use my influence to convince the PLP caucus to support the OBA's effort to bypass the referendum process. Needless to say, I informed the Premier that he should be having this conversation with the leader of the opposition, not me as the deputy. The Premier also denied ever having that meeting take place and said that, and I quote, "I had no need to call any of the opposition members for anything." The Premier has gone on record stating that his business manager, Mr. Stephen DaCosta, was only bumming a ride with him when he, along with Ministers Crockwell and Pettingale, traveled to Washington, D.C. last year. However, yesterday on the Sherry J. Talk Show, Minister Crockwell told the public that Mr. DaCosta was there because of his expertise on golf, and he also revealed that Mr. DaCosta was an active participant in the official exchange of information meetings. There are now two conflicting versions of what happened in D.C. One by the Premier of bumming a ride, which was directly contradicted by Minister Crockwell's version. We would like to make it very clear, and I say very clear, our members will not be silenced by legal threats or any legal action in order to suppress the truth. And the Premier cannot hide these legal threats as his version of events and now being challenged by his own cabinet ministers. Ultimately, Bermudians must decide who spoke the truth, as the whole integrity of our system of governance is being tested in a manner that this country has never witnessed before. The truth must prevail, and the Premier must stop ducking questions and reveal to the country the nature of his and his business partners' relationships with Mr. Nathan Landau. Any potential development is far too important to the future of this country. We need jobs for our people, and the Premier is putting this at risk by his refusal to speak to his relationship with potential casino developer. There is an RFP process underway, and improper contact can derail this process and thus delay any development. Our country cannot afford this outcome, and that is why it is important for the Premier to explain the nature of his relationship with Mr. Nathan Landau. Thank you. I'll take any questions you want to ask.
The quid pro quo scenario with Mr. Burt and the Premier, does that rise to the level of criminality, in your opinion?
You look at the 56 or 57 Act, and that will make it very clear to you.
I'm asking you,
The 1956 and 1956 Acts will make it very clear that that's bribery.
Okay, that it is criminal.
Yes.
Has anyone gone from the PLP, has anyone gone to law enforcement over these allegations?
No, we haven't.
Is there any reason for that?
We just haven't. We're trying to run the country and do our part as the opposition.
But surely, if you're aware of criminal activity, you should report that. Don't you have a duty to report that?
Do we have a duty? We done it in the House of Parliament.
But you haven't reported it officially to any law enforcement.
Okay, well, you got the answer, Roy Gosset.
But why haven't you?
You have the answer. Stay tuned. You will see in future what will happen. Stay tuned.
Mr. Burgess, it has emerged that the Premier's litigation against Mark Bean and David Burt is being paid for by government. What do you make of that?
Very strange, very strange. Having dealt with that myself, I just find it very strange, and at this point, I will make no further comment.
Do you view it as a waste of taxpayer money?
What's that?
Do you view the fact that it's being paid for by the government as a waste of taxpayer money?
As I just told Mr. Trott, I make no further comment on that.
Do you view the impending legal action as an affront to freedom of speech?
Well, the Constitution is quite clear on freedom of speech, freedom of association is very clear.
The Auditor General point, maybe they should refer to the Auditor
The view
General.
that this war of words between PLP and OBA is detrimental to the country at a time when we have labor and economic woes, as echoed by the Honorable Quentin Edwards, who said that we should be focusing on other issues, jobs, etc.
Trust.
And we shouldn't be going back and forth on these issues. What's your response to that?
Well, you know, because we're having problems with our economy, it's not going the way that everybody would like it to be. Do you stop policing the country? Murderers must be taken off the streets. The speed limit must be adhered to. Life continues.
Mr. Burgess, you've urged the Premier to stop ducking questions. Would you like that same appeal to your own leader, to Mr. Martin, to stop ducking questions?
My leader is very capable of answering that, and I don't know if my leader ducking any questions. My leader was on television.
The last 3 days, and he has so far failed to answer them.
Well, Mr. Finnegan, I can understand. The Roy Gosset is no friend of the PLP, and certainly not a friend to Derek Burgess.
The situation with Mr. Landau, what more can you say about that? What's your understanding of the last time the Premier and Mr. Landau met?
Stay tuned.
After these, there seems to be two conversations at the center of this, one between Mr. Burt and the Premier, and one between Mr. Bean and the Premier. did either Mr. Burt or Mr. Bean send any sort of messages, emails or texts, kind of highlighting what transpired in those conversations after those conversations?
I think Mr. Bean and Mr. Burt have given enough information publicly, and if you haven't understood by now, you will never understand.
Mr. President, if you pardon this expression, there seems to be a lot of noise coming from the government and coming from their position.
Right.
What I'd like to know is, what are your constituents telling you about how they feel about this episode?
Well, Mr. Webb, you know I'm from the Bible Belt, Hamilton Parish, and we just want the truth out there because the country must move forward. But we're not for suppressing truth. And if the truth's got to come out, let it come out. And I think that's how you go forward. You cannot heal a relationship without confessing the truth by each party. We have confessed our truth, and we would expect the government to do the same, and then we can move forward. Because you just cannot keep, because you've done something wrong, but can beat you down until you're no more in existence. That's not the way to go. But you must confess. You must live up to it. And if you have to resign for that, then that's what you need to do.
The Premier made a comment yesterday, which I don't know if anybody caught it, but he used the term orchestrated.
Mm-hmm.
He suggested this was an orchestrated attempt to throw the government off course. How do you respond to that?
I can assure you there has been no meetings to plan any orchestration of anything that's going on over the last few weeks. I can show you that.